All right, very thought-provoking stuff. Very thought-provoking stuff indeed. So our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is a fellow by the name of Charles Patterson, the author of Eternal Treblinka, Our Treatment of Animals and the Holocaust. I will let him speak more about it. In the meantime, please welcome Charles Patterson.
Getting the right, yeah, okay. I'm someone when I introduced myself earlier to somebody as Charles Patterson, they said, "Oh, you're the famous author." I said, "No, I'm the infamous author." The reason is that my book is very controversial. The title is Eternal Treblinka. Treblinka was a Nazi death camp in Poland, Nazi death, and eternal means it is going on and on and on. The death camp in Poland shut down when the Russians came through in 1945. So that Treblinka ended, but another Treblinka goes on and on and on, and that's the animal holocaust. It's the killing of innocent beings, herding them into slaughterhouses and extermination camps, and it goes, as we all know now, it goes on and on and on, and tomorrow, I think as the sun comes up over America, okay, that was not eternal. It was interrupted, but anyway, the title, is very controversial. I couldn't get the book published. I had 3 agents, and I tried at least 40 publishers, and they thought it was too controversial. The assumption that how dare anyone compare people and animals and what happens to them, which is what this book is about. But I told people, you can't blame it on me, blame it on Isaac Bashevis Singer, who was a Yiddish writer who won the Nobel Prize in Literature. And I said I'm basically taking his ideas and just filling them out, which is true. That's why I dedicated the book to Isaac Bashevis Singer, and also took the title from his work. And I'm going to read, and the epigraph, it's very brief, I'm going to read it, and you'll see where the title comes from. Let me get my glasses here. Anyway, in his thoughts, Herman spoke a eulogy for the mouse, this is from a short story that Isaac Bashevis Singer wrote called The Letter Writer. And in it, there's an older man who's a survivor of the Holocaust who's working for a Yiddish newspaper downtown here in Manhattan, and he lives alone. But at night there's a mouse that would come out, and he would give the mouse cheese or crackers and milk, and he loved doing this until the mouse died. It was a very devastating experience for Herman. And this is in his thoughts, Herman spoke a eulogy for the mouse who had shared a portion of her life with him, and who, because of him, had left this earth. What do they know, all these scholars, all these philosophers, all the leaders of the world, about such as you? They have convinced themselves that man, the worst transgressor of all these species, is the crown of creation. After all, creatures were created merely to provide him for food, pelts to be tormented and exterminated. In relation to them, all people are Nazis. For the animals, it is an eternal Treblinka. Nothing could be said more directly and more truthfully. We, as a human species, are Nazis. Might makes right. We're allowed to do to the weaker ones, the defenseless ones, what we want, and power is what counts. For the animals, it's an eternal Treblinka. It's not a death camp that closes 6 years later. It's a daily experience that will be going on tomorrow across America as the sun comes up, and these various death camps across the land. Innocent animals are being herded as the Jewish people were being herded into the Treblinka in Poland. Anyway, as you can imagine, this is a controversial point of view. Isaac Bashevis Singer was the first major author to come out with this analogy, this example. And I'm really just, if when people objected to my book, I say, well, don't blame it on me. Isaac Bashevis Singer was the one who came forward with this idea, and I'm merely kind of filling it in. Now, how did I get to be? I grew up in Connecticut. I'm not Jewish. So how did a Connecticut goy, a Gentile, end up writing a book on the Holocaust? Well, the first thing, and it took a long time for me to realize this, was in World War II, my father went overseas to England and then to France and was killed. So as a little boy who never knew his father, I grew up with this huge gap in my life. So World War II had this kind of, I was fascinated by it and respected the hurt that it could do to people. And as I got older in high school and college, I learned about the Holocausts, where World War II did enormous hurt to many people, not just my father. And so when I came to New York to study, I was studying at Columbia, I met a survivor, a woman who grew up in Nazi Germany, who was a teenager there, and faced all the prejudice and the anti-Semitism. Fortunately for her and her parents, they left in the late 30s. They got out in time, came to New York, but that experience embedded in her, and she told me about what happened, and I was mesmerized, and I wanted to know more. So I read more. I took some courses. I wasn't even aware yet I was connecting it to my own hurt through the loss of my father, but obviously that's what was going on. And when I was teaching at a school, private school here in Manhattan, world history, and there was a section on European history in it, and I wanted a book. This would be like for high school aged people. I wanted a book that explained what happened in Europe to the Jews, to the anti-Semitism, where it came from. It didn't obviously start in 1933, and I looked for a book, but I couldn't find one. So I decided to write a book for my class, so to speak, and for anyone else interested. And I did. That was my first book. The title was Anti-Semitism, The Road to the Holocaust and Beyond. And then later, when I was teaching at another school, well, actually the same school, I went to Yad Vashem, which is in Israel, in Jerusalem, which is the center of collection of Holocaust memory and relics there. Now, that's the Holocaust part of the book, which, as you can see, I'm very involved in. How about the animal rights part of it? That happened when I was here in New York, and I began going to some conferences. And actually, I was asked to write a young adult or high school age book on, and I was going to do a social series. I said, oh, what are the topics I might be interested in doing that? And they listed them, and one of them was animal rights, which at the time I didn't really know what it was, but it sounded sort of interesting. So I looked into it and thought, okay, I'll do this. You know, I have to earn a living, so I need the money. And I got involved in it, got totally absorbed by it. And I went to a couple of conferences, and I went to one up here in Westchester County where they showed videos of the animals being brought into the slaughterhouses and chickens on the assembly line. And as I was watching, I thought, there's something very familiar about this. And I realized here's another group of living human beings, innocent, who are being exterminated the way the Jews were in World War II. And that laid the seed for my book, the idea of doing the book. So, let's see what else I want to say here. Yeah, the problem is, and I wrote the book and passed it around, but no one would publish it. I even had some agents. I had 3 agents all told who submitted it to houses, New York houses here, and no one would accept it. As one publisher said, it's too strong. And it was about at the time that PETA was sending out people to cities with illustrations, placards about the animal holocaust, showing the parallels between the way animals are killed and the way people are killed. Anyway, it was I finally couldn't get it published, so I decided I had to publish it myself, which was really a scary prospect because I didn't know anything about business or about getting a book published. And fortunately, Lantern Books, Martin Rowe of Lantern Books, who believes in this vegetarianism and social justice, I approached him and said, could we partner this in some way? Could you help me get this published? And he did. He helped me get the printer, and without him I couldn't have done it. And it is now well, he was a lifesaver. And anyway, it was published, and it's controversial. I'm glad to say that now it's sort of caught on. It's been, someone from Italy wrote to me and said, can I, so I'm actually the publisher, and Lantern Books is the distributor. And a doctor from Italy wrote and said, can I, I'd like to translate this. And can I said, well, sure. I was surprised. Anyway, one thing led to another, and other people approached me, and in other countries there were translations. And obviously in Europe and Eastern Europe, where the Holocaust is a not so distant memory, there was interest in this controversial thesis about the Holocaust. But it also it went on to be published in well, besides Spain and France, Czechoslovakia, Slovenia, Japan. Last year it was published in Korea and in Greece, and it's now actually being translated, if you can believe it or not, into Chinese. So the story, you know, has a good ending as far as the book's concerned. You know, since is Susan still here? No. One of the things that helped the book from not being offensive to the Jewish community or the Holocaust survivors is that there are many Holocaust survivors, their children and grandchildren, who I wrote about in the book, and included, in fact, the foreword is written by a woman who's the daughter of Holocaust survivors. And so that's the most moving part of the book, I think, is that these people who have been through it, they make the conclusion, because of what we experienced in Europe, we don't like what's being done to other innocent groups here in America or anywhere else in the world. So, with that, I want to finish up just by. I'm not going to read that whole epigraph again, but I want to read the last sentence because that's what it's all about. In relation to them, that is, in relation to animals, all people are Nazis. And for the animals, it's an eternal Treblinka. Thank you.
Very profound and thought-provoking stuff, and it is a historical fact, of course, that the architects of the final solution used the factory farming model when they were building their death camps. Am I correct on this? They were like, oh, here's a great way to kill a bunch of living beings in a really efficient way. Let's do what they're doing over there. So, many, many reasons not to support that kind of atrocity. And thank you very much for your insight there. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is a fellow by the name of Bob DiBenedetto.